African Union takes permanent seat in the G20.
The African Union has become a permanent member of the G20, which comprises the world's richest and most powerful countries. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi invited the bloc to take a seat at the G20 summit in New Delhi on Saturday. That gave the African Union, a continental body of 55 member states, the same status as the European Union, the only regional bloc with full membership. The AU, which was represented by Chairperson Azali Assoumani, was previously an invited international organisation. Modi said the AU joining would make the G20 more representative. Vincent Magwenya is spokesperson to South Africa's President, Cyril Ramaphosa.
It was always a myth that you will have such forums for international economic cooperation running with the exclusion of large parts of the world. Now we are moving towards a direction that includes those parts of the world that were excluded. We share a lot of common challenges, particularly with respect to climate change. And those issues cannot be resolved through exclusive approaches.
The summit has adopted the G20 New Delhi Leaders' Declaration.
The G20 also adopted a consensus declaration that avoided condemning Russia for the war in Ukraine, but called on all sides to refrain from the use of force to seize territory. It came as a surprise because the group is deeply divided over the war, with Western nations pushing for strong condemnation of Russia, while others demanded a focus on broader economic issues. Ukraine called the statement nothing to be proud of.
President Tinubu directs immediate payment of life insurance for deceased soldiers too.
At this juncture, it is with all sense of humility that I wish to express the Nigerian Army's gratitude once again to the President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Tinubu, Grand Commander of the Order of the Federal Republic, for directing that all pending group life assurance payments owed to the families of our departed warriors be paid without delay. The enemies we fight are emboldened by weakness. Strength is what keeps them to stand back. Therefore, we must be willing, able, and ready to project an appropriate level of force to confront situations as they develop across the country. I charge fleet commanders to ensure the maintenance of these platforms and equipment to prolong their lifespan and enable the nation to optimize its investments. To align with the directive of the Commander-in-Chief, President Bola Tinubu, Grand Commander of the Order of the Federal Republic, that the armed forces and other security agencies should decisively deal with all security challenges facing the country, we must continue to conduct ourselves in a manner that reflects us as a committed force. In line with this, I conceived my command philosophy to transform the Nigerian Army into a well-trained, equipped, and highly motivated force towards achieving our constitutional responsibilities within a joint environment. This philosophy will guide and drive our actions and engagement as I lead the Nigerian Army into becoming a force ready to operate and respond to any form of threat in any domain and spectrum within and outside the boundaries of Nigeria through joint efforts.
Niger absent as Nigeria, Benin, Togo flag off joint regional maritime exercise.
This signaled the flag off and launch of Operation Safe Domain 2 in the Republic of Benin. The operation is to give bite to the implementation of the MOU on joint maritime operations and patrols agreed upon by the chiefs of naval staff of Benin, Nigeria, Niger, and Togo, all member countries of Zone E of the Multinational Maritime Coordination Center.
The objectives of the patrols and joint operations are to pool resources of the state parties, make the maritime resources interoperable, evaluate the standard operational procedures, operationalize the right of hot pursuit as defined by the rules of engagement and multilateral and bilateral memoranda, then secure the maritime area of the Maritime Zone E.
Through this operation, the safety and security of the maritime domain of these countries are expected to be strengthened towards curbing illicit maritime activities, including piracy and sea robbery.
If the country, like somebody commits an offense, we find a pirate ship in Nigerian waters and they run, once they cross into Benin water, if we don't have agreement with Benin, we cannot pursue them into that water. So that is the essence of this continuous practice together, this collaboration that we have.
The strategy adopted includes research and exchange of information, maritime and air surveillance, and intervention of the operational units in case of necessity.
The more we operate together, the more we're familiar with our operating procedures, and the more we see ourselves as comrades. And at the end of this exercise, all the navies should be better equipped to operate together. The waters of the Gulf of Guinea generally and Maritime Zone E specifically should be safer for those doing legitimate business and should be more hostile for those who want to carry out nefarious activities within our waters.
The collaborative efforts by navies of different countries is one of the many channels of effectively manning the 2.35 million square kilometers vast Gulf of Guinea, which cuts across 16 coastal countries. The successes recorded here will no doubt form the bedrock for future operations.
Niger war preparation. French warplanes have landed in Ghana, Togo, Senegal, Benin and Ivory Coast.
I'm Julia Sondu, showing you where development is happening. Please come and join us. France deploying forces, war equipment in preparation to invade Niger. Says junta. The Niger military administration has accused France of building up forces and war equipment in several neighboring West African countries in preparation for an aggression. The Niger military administration has accused France of building up forces and war equipment in several neighboring West African countries in preparation for an aggression against the country. Relations with France, Niger's former colonial power, soured after Paris stood by ousted President Mohamed Bazoum following the July coup. In a statement broadcast on national television late Saturday, Putschist spokesman Colonel Major Amadou Abdrahman said, France continues to deploy its forces in several ECOWAS countries as part of preparations for an aggression against Niger, which it is planning in collaboration with this community organization. Abdrahman added that France had deployed military aircraft, helicopters and 40 armored vehicles to Côte d'Ivoire and Benin. Military cargo aircraft have enabled large quantities of war material and equipment to be unloaded in Senegal, Côte d'Ivoire and Benin, to name but a few, he said. Niger is also embroiled in a standoff with the West African bloc ECOWAS, which has threatened to intervene militarily if diplomatic pressure to return Bazoum to office fails. However, the regional bloc has said it does not want Niger to repeat the experiences of Mali, Guinea and Burkina, with which it had to haggle over the durations and conditions of transition periods. On August 3rd, the coup leaders renounced several military cooperation agreements with France, which has about 1,500 soldiers stationed in the country as part of a wider fight against militants. They maintained that France's forces are now, illegally, stationed in Niger. Paris, which refuses to recognize the military regime in Niger, does not consider the mutinous soldiers who ousted President Bazoum as party to those cooperation deals. France is engaged in a tug-of-war with Niger, which has also withdrawn the diplomatic immunity of French ambassador Sylvain Itte and ordered police to expel him. France has refused the demand on several occasions, saying the military regime has no legal right to make such an order. Africa, the next battleground. Attempts are being made by the West to destabilize Africa's regimes that are perceived pro-Russia and China, especially in view of BRICS expansion and the fast-changing dynamics of Africa. French President Emmanuel Macron has expressed concerns about the expansion of BRICS, highlighting the risk of fragmentation of the world that needs to be avoided. Fragmentation of states has led to numerous countries choosing to unite in a union over which the West has no control. Not only is there no control, but there is also no effective influence. Macron said, BRICS expansion runs the risk of weakening the West and Europe in particular and turning the tides in their favor. The global financial situation is getting tougher as BRICS countries become more complex to trade with. By using local currencies for trade settlement, the West's predominant international order is being challenged. Concurrent to the above is the awakening in Africa against the West, the recent military coups in Niger and Gabon adding to the signals. It is well known that resources in Africa are exploited by private companies, owned by French, American and British billionaires and politicians who lead these countries. French colonization of Africa is diminishing but not over. French troops are deployed to guard mines in Africa and African nations get a pittance against the minerals sold by the big corporate. The US and the West attribute the increase in Russian and Chinese influence in the global South to the changing dynamics in Africa. France is not clear how Africans in the future will react to France's continued stay in French colonies in Africa. The effect of this is a loss of guaranteed supply of minerals, including gold. Niger has increased the price of uranium, more than what was mandated by the French after the military coup, and these prices are likely to rise further. The West wants the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, to take military action against Niger. Now there is news that the European Union, EU, is set to launch a new mission in West Africa, a mission in the Gulf of Guinea, with police and soldiers deployed to Ghana, Togo, Benin and Ivory Coast, according to the German paper Welt am Sonntag published every Sunday. The stated aim of the combined military-civilian operation reportedly is to prevent instability triggered by jihadi groups, to train and advise local security forces, help prepare for anti-terror operations, provide technical support and implement confidence-building measures in the security sector. Formal approval of the mission is to be taken in October during the EU foreign ministers' meeting in Luxembourg. The reason for the mission is being given as the EU's concern that Islamist groups, Islamic State and Al-Qaeda, could extend their activities in West Africa from the Sahel zone toward the southern coastal countries on the Gulf of Guinea, leading to even more widespread instability in the region. But the actual reason probably is to counter growing Russian and Chinese influence in Africa, Mali having kicked out French and German forces, Niger asking French forces to leave the country, military coup in Gabon after the military took power in Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger. This EU mission would be backed by NATO. It needs no intelligence to decipher why the sudden assessment that the IS and Al-Qaeda could extend their activities in West Africa, both these terrorist organizations being the foster children of the CIA. Not only has the US used these organizations in Iraq, Syria, even airdropped weapons for them, but also used them in West Asia and in Afghanistan in concert with Pakistan to advance American national interests. The obvious attempt now is to launch sub-conventional operations in Africa and destabilize regimes that are perceived as pro-Russia and China. In fact, there is speculation that the fire in the federally owned building in Johannesburg that 74 and injured more than 50 within a week of the BRICS summit was engineered by the West, displeasure expressed over the expansion of the organization. Apparently, Africa is earmarked as the next battleground. This is the end of our program today. See you on Intervlog same time tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon to get new video updates. Thank you for watching Intervlog.
Oil theft. Group urges collaboration between Navy and Tantita. A northern forum known as the Kungiyar Mutanan Arewa has called for collaboration between the Nigerian Navy and Tantita security personnel to fight the menace of oil theft in the Niger Delta. Sit at home has ended in Southeast, says COAS. The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Torid Lagbaha, has said the sit-at-home order enforced by the indigenous people of Biafra across the southeast states has ended. While African CSOs seek peaceful resolution to Niger crisis, civil society organizations CSOs in West Africa have called on the Economic Community of West African States ECOWAS to seek alternatives to military action in Niger Republic. UWC acquires armored vehicles and equipment for Ukrainian territorial defense forces. The Ukrainian World Congress purchased tracked armored vehicles and automotive equipment for the territorial defense forces. Detail news coming shortly.